This week, we have 2 bachelorettes, 6 hometowns, and 1 man sent home. Hey guys, and welcome back to another Shared News. We have your episode 7 of The Bachelorette's recap, but before we get into it, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on any future videos. All right, so we have a lot of men, a lot of families, and a lot of details, so let's get you right into the recap. Starting us off, we have Gabby and Jason's hometown in New Orleans. They throw beads, walk Bourbon Street, have a great time before meeting with Jason's father in a park. Jason's father actually brings Gabby some flowers, they hit it off, and Jason's father even asked Jason to be the best man at their wedding. Now, because Jason's parents are separated, they then have a separate family time with his mother, sister, and his sister's boyfriend. Gabby has some discussions with his mom and his sister about the two of them being really different, but his mom even tells her that it's a good balance. Now, it's clear to me that not only Jason's father, but his mother are fully into this relationship. They are in full support of Jason and Gabby. But then Jason delivers some interesting news to his mother. He says that he can't see himself getting engaged at this point and that he needs space to process everything that's happened thus far on The Bachelorettes. And he tells his mom that it's not her, meaning Gabby, it just wouldn't feel right to him. But it also won't feel good if he loses Gabby, which his mom points out to him as she breaks down crying. Now, this is definitely something Jason needs to discuss with Gabby, but they don't get that time during his hometown date, so definitely leaving us on a cliffhanger for next week. Rachel's first one-on-one is with Zach in Anaheim, California. Now, they actually end up quote-unquote trespassing, which they go up to a roof and watch planes take off, which is something they discussed on their first one-on-one. It's something that they both used to do with their dads. And it's here that Zach tells Rachel, quote, "I very much still and am falling in love with you." Rachel and Zach then return to Zach's childhood home where they meet his family, including his uncle, Patrick Warburton, who is a famous actor. So it was definitely interesting to see him on our screens for a reality show as opposed to a normal TV show. The family seems to really like Rachel, and they end up ending the night with an at-home movie, similar to their first one-on-one when they watched old home movies. Now, Zach's family can actually watch unreleased footage, or I guess footage that hadn't been seen at that point, of Rachel and Zach thus far in the season. Things got a little spicy when they ended up showing their hot tub makeout scene, but I thought that everyone handled it really well. And honestly, I thought this was a really positive hometown date. You know, I know we've all had our eyes on Tino for a while now, but Zach is definitely giving front runner energy here. So if he's not her final rose pick, I'm guessing he's at least the runner-up. And at the end of their date, Zach told her that he's no longer just falling in love with her, he is in love with her. So this just sealed the deal for me even more. I really do like Zach, and I see that connection between the two of them, but we'll just have to wait and see. Moving along to Gabby and Johnny's hometown date in Palm Beach. They ended up going straight into meeting his family as opposed to doing any hometown activities with the two of them. And Gabby says a quote that I think is gonna end up being kind of famous. She said, "Johnny's hot. I know it, he knows it, you know it," to the viewers at home. So there's definitely that physical connection there. And Gabby also says to his family that she's always known that she can be herself around Johnny. Meanwhile, Johnny's kind of having a similar moment to Jason, where he's having a lot of fears coming up surrounding the idea of getting engaged and getting married. He said that getting married is a huge step and he doesn't know if he's ready for that, but he knows that Gabby wants it and that it's very important to her. And he kind of has a pep talk with his dad, where his dad, I think, is in full support of him getting married, of him taking that next step with Gabby, and is really trying to hype him up. And his dad says, "Johnny, you know, you say you're not ready. Why don't you think you're ready? Is it emotionally? I think you're ready emotionally. Is it financially? You'll go down that road together." He was kind of walking him through all of these steps of why Johnny thinks he might not be ready. And his dad actually encourages him to just go for it, to take the leap of faith, to potentially get engaged to Gabby. So I think similar to Jason, we're gonna have to see how this really pans out for the two of them, especially next week when I hope we'll get the rose ceremony and actually figure out where Gabby stands with her remaining men. Going back to Rachel, she has a hometown date with Tyler in Wildwood, New Jersey. And she says in her interview portion before the date that they are the most most far behind in terms of her connections with her men. Now, as they have a boardwalk date, really brings her into his world, Rachel continues to think and say that there really isn't enough time, and she's realizing she has stronger connections with other men. Now, she ends up talking to a producer, she steps away and goes to the bathroom, really trying to clear her head and figure out what she wants to do and if she wants to meet Tyler's family when she's having these fears come up. Now, the two of them end up sitting on a bench on the boardwalk in one of the most disconnected and heartbreaking scenes this season. Rachel ends up starting the conversation by saying, "You're the most incredible person, and I feel so lucky to know you." And Tyler ends up interrupting her to say, there's a reason for everything, and going through these struggles and then meeting Rachel, he realizes that she was the reason that he went through hard stuff in order to meet her. He said that his family told him not to bring a girl home unless he knows that she's the one, that he's in love with her, and that she's the most amazing person he's ever met. Now, Rachel continues to try and get words in edgewise, but he is going on a tangent. She at one point completely breaks the fourth wall and just looks into the camera. You can tell she's dreading telling him this. Now, Rachel is finally able to speak her mind and tell him how she feels. She said that, "I just feel like tonight we're bringing other people into this. I've never met anyone like you who loves so openly and isn't afraid of being hurt. And I just feel we've had the most incredible day, but I'm still feeling like not 100% confident. And I don't know if I'm ready to meet your family when I still have this bit of reservation." Now, Tyler, in my opinion, handles this pretty well. He sits there calmly, he doesn't overreact, and he just says that love that's forever is real, and I believe in it every single day. And just looking at you, I know you're gonna have that, and I want that too. Now, he's just really saying he believes in that eternal love, he believes in that unconditional love, and while he might not have a future with Rachel, he believes she's deserving of that as he is. So Rachel is definitely really upset. She gets in the car, she's crying, and she makes a comment about how even though she was the one breaking up with him, it felt like he was comforting her. And what was even more heartbreaking is that Tyler then has to enter into his home and talk with his mom, and his mom is so excited to see him and really does think that he'll be returning with Rachel, fully in love, ready to be engaged. And he has to break the news to his family that she is no longer there and that their journey together is over. So my heart goes out to Tyler. I hope we can see him maybe in paradise. I hope he gets a little bit of a redemption arc, maybe has another opportunity to find love, because the way he handled that moment to me really stood out. Now, moving on to better and more positive hometown dates, Gabby and Eric also meeting in New Jersey, this time in Bedminster. Now, Eric has discussed with Gabby that his dad has been battling cancer for 3 years, and that watching his mom take care of him has really proved to him what unconditional and everlasting love means. Now, Eric really likes Gabby. He tells her that. He says he wouldn't have brought her home if he didn't have feelings for her. And his mom has an interesting conversation with Gabby about commitment. She says you marry for life. It's an important decision. You don't quit on the people you love, which really has been exemplified through her continuing to take care of Eric's father over the last 3 years. And after, they have their visit with his family, they actually have their one-on-one time afterward. The two of them go and get drinks, and Eric tells Gabby that he's risked a lot to be here, but it's all for Gabby, and he's happy that he did it. And then he tells her that he may be falling in love with her, which is scary. And Gabby says, "I've always wanted to be with someone like you, but didn't know if it was possible. I am falling in love with you." Now, this is huge. It's not every day that a bachelorette or any lead for that matter is going to be honest and open with how they're feeling, especially saying that they're falling in love. So this is definitely a really good sign for Eric and makes me think that he might be at the top of Gabby's list. And she even says in an interview moment after the date, quote, "I think Eric's hometown could have changed my life." Now, if this doesn't mean that Eric is nearly, if not the final rose pick for Gabby, I'm not sure who is, because if she ends up with someone else, that's gonna be hard to rewatch with your fiance and explain why Eric's hometown may have changed your life. Now, we know that Gabby only had 3 men coming into the hometown dates, so she is done with all of her hometowns. And so we switch back to Rachel with Tino. Now they meet up in Santa Clarita, California, and Rachel's definitely nervous. You know, she's coming off of her date with Tyler, which did not end well. And we know that Rachel has been into Tino from the first night. So she talks with him beforehand, talks about how nervous she is about not getting his parents' approval, and that she is really serious about him and what that might mean for the two of them as a couple if they don't get that permission and that approval from his family. So after Tino assures her that it's all gonna be fine, they're all gonna love them together, they enter Tino's house, and his parents came ready with the questions. Now they question Tino, they question Rachel, they have a lot of questions about the speed and how they possibly could know how they feel about each other. You know, Tino definitely presents a united front. He is not taking any heat. He is confident with Rachel, but it starts to get to Rachel about how it doesn't feel like they're really into her, that they don't like her, that they're not approving of the relationship. Tino's dad says he doesn't think a whirlwind trip really prepares you for marriage. Tino's mom ends up asking Rachel what she thinks Tino's best qualities are, to which she said positivity, generosity. And his mom ends up saying that this, in reference to the show, in reference to The Bachelorette, is not real. To which Rachel says, well, it is. You know, there are real emotions being involved. So that was an interesting moment between the two of them. And I was glad Rachel stood her ground at that point. She then meets with Tino's dad. He also asks her, you know, what she thinks about Tino. Who is Tino? What are his best qualities? Tino's dad ends up telling Rachel, quote, "You're saying all the right things, but I'm looking out for him. I'm making sure he's making the right choice and it's the right match. How can you talk about Tino this way when there are other men? I want to see him fall for the right person." Now that's definitely got a sting, because at that point he's questioning not just the relationship, but Rachel as a potential match, as a potential daughter-in-law. And I think the family's message to them is that they need to be on the same page in terms of the future, in terms of engagement, and how well they know each other. So Rachel and Tino reconvene outside the house. Rachel does not think that Tino's family likes her. Tino says that he's so sure about her. He really did think that his family approved of her. So it was interesting to see the two of them go back and forth about exactly what went down in that house. But Tino ends up telling her that he is so sure about her and is falling in love with her and doesn't want a future without her. And now this is a pivotal moment for Rachel, just as we saw with Gabby's last hometown date. And she says that she feels like she's been falling in love with him for a while. So again, a huge indicator of what she's feeling and where in her rankings Tino lies, just as we saw with Gabby and Eric. So I know we are also missing Rachel's final hometown date with Avon. We did not get that this episode, which makes me think that'll be bumped to next week's episode, and then we'll have a rose ceremony with all of the men. So I was a little disappointed that we didn't get all 7, but I'm honestly impressed that we even fit 6 into an episode when typically we only have 4. Again, it just points out with this format that while fun and while unique, it does come at a cost. We are really not getting as much time. We're not seeing as much of the connections. We're not seeing a ton from the men. And it makes me think that we have a lot more to get to know from these guys, and maybe even from our leads. We really don't know where they're gonna end up, although maybe these falling in love with you declarations are making that more clear. So I want to know what you guys thought about this whirlwind episode. Were you, trying to keep up as much as I were? Were you taking frantic notes like I was? Leave your thoughts down in the comments below. And before you go, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on any Bachelorette's updates. I'm your host, Allison Van Dam. My social handle is on the screen right now if you want to come give me a follow and come say hello. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.